Welcome to the Financial Quarterback with your host, Jim Lineweaver.
Hi, I'm Jim Lineweaver, your financial quarterback since 1993. The question that I get all the time is not only how much should you save for retirement, but also how much should you spend. So there are a lot of rules of thumb out there, but how accurate are they, and do they really help your situation? There are really two sides to the question: how much you need to save, and then also how much you should spend. When it comes to talking about how much you should save, many times people think the rule of thumb is, say, 10 to 15% of your gross income. But 10 to 15% usually assumes that you save that same amount for your entire career from roughly age 25 all the way until you hit age maybe 67. But as most of you are thinking, that's a pretty narrow definition. If you haven't been saving that whole time, and many of us haven't, then it throws the whole equation off. So instead of just assuming a single savings rate, many financial advisors will suggest that you start by working backwards. Decide when you want to retire and about how much you'll spend each year in retirement. Then you can work backwards to get the number that you're going to need, and then divide that by your remaining years, and you got to figure out a market rate of return. These are all going to help you figure out how much you're going to need to save for retirement. This is also a valid strategy that many advisors use, but the issue here is that things change over time. So in other words, if you do this exercise in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or maybe even by the time you retire, you may have completely different priorities. You may want to help kids or grandkids out with education. You may want to travel more or less than you originally thought. You may decide to downsize or even buy that dream vacation home. So working backwards can help, but you have to be sure that the plan you made 20 or 30 years ago will still apply to you when it comes to your retirement. So you see that two of the standard rules of thumb don't always help you save as much as you need for retirement. And at the same time, it may actually contribute to some overspending. So many investors and advisors use the 4% rule when it comes to spending in retirement, which simply says that generally speaking, you can take about 4% off your portfolio in distributions every year. But as we've seen this year, inflation doesn't always cooperate. While historically inflation generally ran about 2.3%, this year has been an exception, with inflation rising as much as 9.1%, and we've all seen prices increase that are even higher than that. So if you don't have strategies in your portfolio to combat inflation and haven't planned for these kind of unknowns, the 4% rule of thumb may not work for you. Like the 10 to 15% savings rule that we covered earlier is also very rigid and doesn't allow you as much flexibility as you may need to save for the retirement that you really want. Life throws many ups and downs and challenges at you along the way, and it's important to make sure you have a good game plan that can adjust to these different circumstances to keep you on track. My experience in working with private and corporate clients for almost 30 years is that no two people have the same financial needs or goals. Rules of thumb are a good starting point, but the best course of action is usually to work with a certified financial planning professional along the way to make sure you reach the retirement that you want and deserve. So if you have questions about your retirement, give us a call. Here's Fox News Sunday.